walking through the halls of the Westin Hotel. We are about to enter Windy City Pulpcon to look at some beautiful covers, some great books, and hopefully stumble upon some Golden Age books from Planet Comics and more. Come along and let's step in there. night here at Pulpcon, Windy City Pulpcon. I'm here with David at All-American Collectibles, and what a great collection of Golden Age books, Silver Age, and of course, Pulp Fiction books. But what are you looking, David, to sell at the con today?
A little bit of everything. I try to be diverse in what I do. Like you said, I sell pulps, I sell Golden Age, Silver Age, sold some toys, sold some paperbacks, a little bit of everything.
And do you have your website or Instagram, or is it both?
You can find us on Facebook. Just search for All-American Collectibles, Moe's Comics, St. Louis, Missouri.
Oh, great, great. And look at this beautiful cover. I picked up this one right here. Just loving the pre-code artwork as well. So thank you, David, for letting me stop by, and we'll keep going. Welcome back, fellow time travelers and comic book aficionados. That was Windy City Pulp and Paper Con. Beautiful covers, Pulp Fiction books, as well as Golden Age and a few Silver Age comics. And it was really neat. It was like walking through a museum. Each vendor brought their own collection of Pulp Fiction books, ephemera, which is newspapers, as well as comic books. And it was a neat time to look and actually have a chance to purchase some history. So I'd like to go through some of my pickups at the con, some things that caught my eye, and give you a little introduction of what I saw and what I picked up. Everyone was equipped with a badge to sign up and receive the badge here, and you can see the artfully done pulp artwork, and kind of neat to see that. It does say 24. It is the year 2025. But needless to say, it was a lot of fun. Panel discussions were had. Original artwork in their own room was also shared. So everyone was given a couple things to take with them, a advertisement to the next Pulpcon, and you could see the artwork here as well as on the back right there. So the show travels, it goes throughout the country, and this happens to be part of DocCon, FarmerCon, and that takes place in Pittsburgh, so that's where the show is going. And we also had a program, And in it, some historical references. Some fans of the pulp fiction genre wrote about the legacies of Robert E. Howard and Edgar Rice Burroughs, best known for Tarzan and John Carter of Mars. Some of his sci-fi and jungle adventures are shared in this book with a lot of pages and information and biographical data, and even some artwork, some penciling here, as there's a reference to Burroughs and his work, and just a history of some of that, including some of the rare books that he worked on. So we have to thank a lot of these pulp fiction writers, as they have paved the way for the genre of the comic book, and just great to see some of this chronicled in these little books. So kind of very immersive, a lot of different books that were sold. Some were sports related, some were argosy, weird tales, horror genre, as well as planet stories, which gave way to Planet Comic. So check out some of the artwork. Just loving this kind of vintage 1920s, 1930s style. The black in the background with the stars and the whizzing rockets is always a favorite of mine to take out and look and flip through pages of that. So this happens to be a first Phantom experience, the Ultimate Cosmos. So it talks about a promo for the book right there. Another something that I picked up was Fantasy Illustrated. These were some freebies on the table. And again, these painted covers that we know and love. We know Dell Comics did it, Gold Key did it. We also see it in numerous pulp fiction books on the back here. You can kind of gander at that and all the different titles, including Spicy Mystery and a lot more. So very neat to see some of these covers. This happens to be an auction guide for some of the CGC rated pulp books. Just much like comics book, pulps also have their own following with auctions and collectibles, weird tales, amazing stories, All Story Weekly right there. Just giving you a look at some of the covers and some of the prices that are going for. Of particular note, Amazing Stories, issue number 28, features the first appearance of Buck Rogers, paving the way for the science fiction genre. And that was one of the grail and most important books at the con. So as we all look through Amazing Fantasy number 15, the Amazing Stories pulp book number 28 is the key one to find in these cons. One of the first pickups, I visited Larry Cherret, best known for starting the comic book convention in Chicago Comic-Con in 1972. He was there, he had his table, and he had a bunch of beautiful Sunday papers featuring Superman and Joe Palooka, and a 16-page funny page right there in all its form, beautiful, brilliant colors. And this is from May 16th, 1948. So if your parents handed you down the funny section in 1948, this is exactly how it looked. And it's a little brittle, so I'll be careful, but I will show you some of the comics here. We have Al Yoop, also Red Rider, right at the top right there. And I spoke with Larry. We kind of talked back and forth about comic book conventions and how they've gone into bigger and more serious media production. But back then, he gathered a group of salesmen and comic book store owners from Joe Sarno, Gary Calabono, and he himself, Larry Cherret, and just put together in the hotel lobby a comic book show that eventually became Wizard World and Fan Expo that we have in August in Chicago. So it was neat to see Larry, to kind of see how he was doing. He looked great. He hasn't changed at all, and just nice to see him. He's really a pinnacle of comic book history. And here even we have Mickey Finn and Carrie Drake, and kind of reminiscent of Brenda Starr, one of the ones that I used to read in the Tribune. So Steve Canyon. So these are wonderful pieces of history. I'm going to find a nice backer board and plastic to display it and put it in. And I thank Larry for being at the Windy City Pulpcon and just being there to say hello to. And moving right along, although I didn't purchase a Amazing Stories featuring Buck Rogers, I did find a comic book. This happened to be from a couple years ago, a free comic book day edition. I really like the artwork, kind of reminiscent of the 1940s style. And it was Hugo Gernsback in August of 1928 that introduced this particular character. And you see the yellows and the greens on this book. And this happened to have some original clippings and some side stories related to Buck Rogers. And kind of flipping in, you can see some of the reproductions in color of the early Buck Rogers comics. Some were also featured in Dell comics and also in the syndicated news strip. And Buck Rogers is here to salute you. And happy to pick this up for a few bucks. And it also makes a reference to his anniversary, 25th century Buck Rogers, and kind of a newer take of the character today. So coming up on 100 years, in 2028, Buck Rogers will be 100. How about that? The biggest pickup that I made at the Pulpcon happened to be at All-American Comics. They set up a booth, and I had a chance to talk to David, the operator and owner of the comic book store, and he had amazing pre-code horror books and Golden Age books, and that was the fun of this particular con. There were plenty of Golden Age books to be seen, and some that were very pricey and rare, in good condition and in various condition. And I made out with Adventures into the Unknown. And this happens to be issue number 7, early in the run, of a comic from ACG, the American Comic Group. And they were around with Ace Comics and also the Fiction House publishers. ACG also contended with creating horror books in different genres as well. And a shout out to Captain Strangelife, as this is totally the captain right there, looking on two raiders of the treasures and booty that you see here, with the treasure chest being taken away. I can just imagine the pirate ship appearing in the background like a mirage, and all of a sudden the silhouette of the captain here looking on. So a real treat. You can even see the hand holding the sword and the impending action that's going to happen. And what drew me to this book, and I've always been a collector of Adventures into the Unknown, is that title. Look at how the title is drawn on that curve. It's almost like a movie scene, and it's just a great way to entice someone like me to buy the book. Numerous splash pages. This is a 52-page giant book. Usually the suspenseful stories, sci-fi, horror. And this is really owning a piece of history. And I was glad that Dave sold this to me for a great price. He actually gave me a little discount as well. I kind of read the price wrong. I kept saying, it's $70, and it's really $75, but he was very nice to honor that, because I'm finding myself having to move my glasses to see some of these prices now. But look at the stories. A Mummy's Cloth, about two archaeologists that unearth the sarcophagus of a mummy, and the cloth comes to cause mysterious happenings and curses. So really neat to see a pre-code horror book. And All-American Comics, based in St. Louis. I'm going to put their information below. If you're in St. Louis, or if you're online, check out David and his books, and you'll find some rare beauties like this. I even like the date stamp right there. So one of the channels, After Comics, After always talks about date stamps and finding them, and kind of cool to see that. The next pickup that I found was from 1962, and it happens to be a DC book, and Tales of the Unexpected. What drew me to this book was the machinery, the gears, and all the details right there, and also the lady looking on in that traditional style from the 60s. And this happened to be from November of 62, issue number 73. So, loving the title again, just coming at you. Comic books today, please do this. This is great. This is a way to give some extra appeal and enticement to the book. Looking forward to reading this as it happens to be a robot. And you usually see this in the 60s. I remember reading Iron Man books and having the decoys being almost like the Hulk and turning out to be a mechanical beast. So a lot of the comics from this day and age made great use of robots and decoys and live decoys, as they were called. And this happened to be from Tales of the Unexpected. Another book that I found was kind of a worn copy of an issue number 1, Uncanny Tales. Right there, some reprints of the horror books from Atlas Comics and Marvel. And this is a 20-cent book. First issue, couldn't go wrong. Some water damage. The vendor had a lot of raw copies. They were all priced the same, $5. And I went through those $5 bin, and picked up this great one right there. So looking forward to reading that. Spooky stuff. And a lot of horror genres represented, from weird tales of the pulp genre and some of those pre-code horrors. Throwing in an Atlas book from the 70s. Every time I see these, they kind of resonate with me. So this happens to be number 1 issue of Tarantula. Look out, Spider-Man. Look out, all those characters. Happens to be a bondage cover. So that's interesting, and you could see the morphing transition of the character to Tarantula. It's actually Tarantula. So very hokey, very fun. Anytime I see Atlas Comics and some Neil Adams, from Iron Jaw to Phoenix to these titles, I pick them up. Also, Mysteries of Unexplored World, Charlton represented. And this, of particular note, has the work of Matt Baker in it. There's actually a Matt Baker story. Pretty beat up. There's some missing pieces, but this was also in that $5 bin. And here we have the story of somebody sleeping and being taken away at night. And this happens to be issue number 12. So if you haven't checked out my videos already, in my playlist, I do make reference to the Charlton comics in the Silver Age, and one of my favorite titles is Mysteries of the Unexplored Worlds, right there. So already looking at horror, sci-fi, but how about some King comics? Happens to be another issue, a number 1, of Mandrake the Magician. And these were also found in poly bags in the shopping centers, grocery stores. You could find 3 comics bagged together, and sometimes you get the Phantom, Flash Gordon, or Mandrake the Magician. In the other books, you get Beetle Bailey or Popeye. But King Comics never disappointed, and some of these rights actually went over to Charlton, and they continued with Charlton Comics. But this is another lovely cover. You can see the background in all green, faded in the back, kind of seeing the detail of dragons and Pegasus in the corner there. So looking forward to reading this pretty thick issue of Mandrake. Always a sucker for sci-fi. I was able to pick up 2 more books. I didn't have these in the collection. Issue number 3 right here, and issue number 4 of Outer Limits. So in the comments below, if you ever find sci-fi books by Dell, do you collect them? Are you a fan of the painted covers like I am? And seeing like the scientists working in a glass dome, or finding them in a capsule bubble spaceship, the Outer Limits. So there's also UFO titles done by Dell, and more notably, there's a few series that has to do with sci-fi. So great covers, blue, yellow. Happy to find these. Lately, I've been on a kick for Pacific Comics. In my last video, I reviewed the artwork of Dave Stevens and some of Pacific Comics. Sometimes I reference it as PC Comics because it's right there, but it's really Pacific Comics, and this is Silver Heels, a short-run series. Beautiful artwork. If I open up, you see every frame is painted, and Pacific Comics, based in San Diego, drew a lot of talent, and eventually it went defunct and lent its way to Eclipse Comics. But look at the painted artwork. This is 80s goodness right here. You can see some of the coloration, the three-dimensional depth. Typically, you see sci-fi space themes. Let's see if we can get the splash on this one. Silver Heels. So, any familiarity with this title? It's one that I haven't read. I've seen the title. Hopping along the Star Wars Battlestar Galactica bandwagon, you have this one here. Pacific Comics. Can't go wrong. This one I actually saw on the channel of Captain Strangelove years ago and kind of chuckling at it, and it's about Supergirl stopping traffic with her thighs, just literally standing in front of the car right there. Obviously, there are criminals being apprehended, and Supergirl, this happened to be issue number 17 from the year 1984. So really interesting cover, a leggy cover at that. But look at what happened to that car. Completely totaled and a wreck. And of course, you know me as a fan of the Archies, the Americana, the soda fountain theme, and just having a good laugh. We have Betty and Veronica and laugh right here. So this one happened to be from September of 1962, issue number 81. And you see those belts whirling away to burn some extra calories and fat. They're enjoying a sundae at the chocolate shop, and just really, really fun. That's really cute. And you see the soda fountains in the background right there with the spigots to give the colas. And then here we have Laugh, and this is from May of 1961. Of course, Betty is dreaming of Archie, and Jughead, just being more sinister and objective, always has something to say. So these were nice $5 pickup from the same vendor that had the Weird Tales number 1. Luckily, these weren't too water damaged, and happy to add them to the Archie collection. And one of the last pickups I found happened to be a number 1 issue of Spawn, but this is a comic that was packed in with the toy action figure. So I've never really seen these in a while, and Spawn is kind of a cool property to pick up. Yeah, I picked up Spawn because I'm getting into the artwork a little bit more. There's an artist that named Jeff Monk, who is from Canada and doing some great things with pen and ink. And just picked this one up in my local comic book store. And this is a variant where he can draw and add a remark. But Spawn is unique. It gives that dark, edgy action. If you're into a little bit more spice in your superhero, Jeff Monk, really worth checking out. He's going to be in Chicago in August, and I'm looking to get this book signed by him and hopefully a remark illustration. But I saw this and this little pack-in comic book, and I'm going to check it out too. So that was Windy City Pulpcon for me. It was a great time seeing a lot of great vintage artwork and newspapers, even seeing Larry Cherret and David from All-American Comics in St. Louis. A great selection of really expensive funny books. Think of just paper having 10 cents written on it, but now they're worth in the 200s, 400s, and up. It was really neat. So that was in Lombard, Illinois, at the hotel, Westin Hotel, and happy to be a part of it. In closing, I'd like to send a shout out to Lead Paint, aka Greg. He sent me a couple comic books to add to my collection because he knows I enjoy the Archie genre. So these are the AOKs that he graciously sent me. He didn't have to do that, but he knows I love the Archie series, including A Giant, The World of Jughead, and Space. So space theme and the diner theme, those two themes that I like. I have this one in really nice condition. So thank you, Greg. That's amazing. The condition of the book. It's a nice, thick read here. Archie Giant. So definitely going to enjoy these pages here. And Jughead and Alien eating all these hamburgers with 3 mouths on there. So I thank you, Lead Paint, Greg. Um, can't thank you enough for being a fan of the channel. And hopefully we can meet at a convention or do a lunch in comics or something when you're not busy. So, or definitely I got to visit your neck of the woods too. So thanks again. You also wrote a letter right there too, just giving me some information, and thanks for that. And add it to the collection if you didn't have it already, and I didn't. So thank you very much. Comic community is truly great. I thank you for watching this video, for hanging out and time traveling with me. We saw something different. So be well, happy collecting, and see you in the path.